Hoyer. And thank you, Chair Gensler, for appearing before our committee today. Iowans care about accountability. They care about focus on mission, jurisdiction, and you already mentioned congressional mandate for the SEC in an earlier answer. And so I think, to put it bluntly, we've seen you sprint outside of your congressional jurisdiction, specifically when it comes to the climate disclosure rule. I see it as a true weaponization of the department, and Iowa farmers, Iowa businesses, Iowa workers see it that way too, and I think it's high time that you reel it in. That's what I'm here to tell you today on behalf of my constituents. And I dug into the place where you say in statutory authority that you're citing 10 different sections of the Exchange or Securities Act in your proposal. And so my first question to you today is, where in here specifically did Congress give you the statutory authority, the jurisdiction to enact this climate rule?
I thank you for asking it. So our remit, all the way back from the 1930s, is to ensure that investors get to decide based on full, fair, and truthful disclosure.
I'm asking you specifically about where your statutory authority is in Section 710, 19A, 28 of the Securities Act, Sections 3B, 12, 13, 15, 23A, and 36 of the Exchange Act. Can you cite where it gives you the actual authority? Because I went through all these sections, and nowhere does it say climate, emissions, or greenhouse gas.
But what it does say is that a company, when it's offering securities and offering a sale of security to the public, that the public gets the description of the business, the material information, and that they can't mislead the public. And what's happening now is there's hundreds, if not well over 1,000 companies today in the markets that are putting out disclosures about climate risk. And there's investors that are relying on those disclosures. And all we're doing, we're not, with all respect, we are merit neutral. And that's an important part of our capital markets. We are
I think
merit
Congress
neutral.
really needs to be.
We're trying to bring consistency and comparability to those disclosures.
Well, it's very clear that in these sections, it is not explicit as far as your lane is concerned there. And that's when I say it's time to reel it in. You need to be explicit about where your authority is. And I don't see that in these sections of code that you reference. And I'm also very concerned by the expansive reporting requirements for Scope 3, greenhouse gas emissions, the devastating impact that that would have for Iowa farmers, because under this rule, you look at large corporations, they have teams of attorneys that can help them comply. Iowa farmers don't have that. So I'm very concerned about the precedent that's being set here with these policies and what you're asking for here. So can you give me some examples of where the Commission has asked for this type of non-financial information to be disclosed in the past?
So our remit is just over the public companies, the 7,000 or 8,000 companies. It's not the farmers that you're referencing. So that's probably, we share that view. And what this is about is the disclosures that the public companies are making, and we put out a proposal about trying to bring consistency to that. We heard a lot of comments back. So-called Scope 3 disclosures that you reference is one of the handful, but important handful of areas where public comment, we got 15,000 comments, came to us. 49 different farm bureaus came to us.
I understand
and
about
so
the public
I think
feedback,
that
but is there precedent for this? That's what I'm asking. Is there any point in time where you can cite anything precedent-wise where you've required this amount of disclosure?
It's just to bring consistency to the disclosure they're already making, but as it relates to this issue about there's no intent or focus of the Securities and Exchange Commission to ask for disclosures from private sector farmers in Iowa or in any of your states.
Well, what I'm hearing here is that this is unprecedented in your answer because you're not mentioning anything precedented, and I do believe that the focus of your agency should be on fraud, detecting Ponzi schemes, not on enacting a climate agenda, which, again, I believe exceeds your statutory authority here. Thank you, sir. I yield back.
Mr. Pocan.